morning.
Morning.
Me pacho oba yo kwatre am preparatory na.
Me pacho an.
O ne ho ane ekọ ne. Ko ne ba ne yin cinema why?
Me pass.
Eka gine tina na.
Obe ko ni. Baba, ya ko ma be fa why?
I don't know how of employment school.
Me ma primary school.
Of employment school.
Oba school.
Of employment.
Me will let you be ni ku. Ni school ko la ni bi kwa wa ka nu. Ana me de ne kan ho se sa de mo fa ho ne.
Now ni mo mo.
Minimum baby a.
I don't know ni mo bi na do Obama ne say on fa no mres.
Eti wa ma.
Employment school.
O ma fra ma school.
Of employment.
Yeah, ready nyankopon. Ready Jimmy. O na ko ka sem seni.
Na unim ka no na ma.
Me ka na ma ma shekura. We na ko ka sem seni. Me mo bring for my school. Yeah, ready nyankopon. We na ko ka sem seni o. Ready.
We are exactly 12 days away from the first anniversary since the disappearance of one out of the 3 tardy girls that went missing in 2018. Somewhere April 2019, the CID boss, Mami Tiwa Adodankwa, said that they knew where the girls were and that they did not want to put their security out for people who are already in their custody, and that they were working so hard to get them back. Last week, Friday, the police finally got some substantial evidence, though we cannot authoritatively say that the evidence they found was that of the 3 tardy girls. And the police retrieved some remains believed to be that of the missing Takoradi girls. The remains were retrieved last Friday night from a septic linked to an uncompleted building, which was previously occupied by one of the accused persons in the case. Upon tip-off and with the aid of sniffer dogs, the police raided the uncompleted building located at Kasaworodo, a suburb of Takoradi. The police, through their investigations, got the information that the missing girls were allegedly buried in the cesspit behind the uncompleted building at Kasaworodo in Takoradi. Subsequently, police officers from Accra stormed the Kasaworodo house of the accused person on Friday evening. At about 5:30 p.m. on Friday, we learned that it was in the cesspit emptier from the prison service. They started emptying the cesspit. The suspect allegedly led the police to the area located near the hostel of the Methodist Girls Senior High School. The police, through their investigation, got the information that the girls were dead and were buried in the septic tank behind the accused person's house. This was very tragic indeed. The Minister of the Interior, Mr. Ambrose Derry, on July 31 told Parliament that the security agencies were still investigating the missing of the 3 girls and were hopeful of rescuing them. The police say the human remains will be sent to the Forensic Science Lab of Ghana Police Service for analysis and further investigations. And they said that this is going to be done within 4 weeks. This is what we are talking about today here on the field with me, Muftawu Nabila Abdulai. In the studio with me is Akosia Nyantechiwa. Sorry, excuse me, I didn't get your name right. Akosia Nyantechiwa Asamoah, who is a CPP communication team member, and Safian Rafik of Kope Ghana. But we'll also be going on the phone to speak to security expert Adam Mbona. He will be joining us via the phone to speak to us. Rafik, good evening. Akosia, good evening. Thanks for coming.
Good evening.
Do you think what the police found on Friday is an indicator that they are finally heading somewhere? Rafik.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Let me say good evening to your viewers. So for me, I think that this issue should be investigated thoroughly before the police can draw conclusions. I think the police haven't drawn any conclusions yet, but then the circulation on the media is that the remains that were found are that of the 3, missing girls. I take a different position to that. I take a very strong exception to that. You see, we need to be asking ourselves questions. This suspect, how long has he been operating? How long has he been operating in this, dastardly act of kidnapping young girls or young people? How long has he been in operation? And so, if you, ponder about these issues, then you might ask yourself, when it comes to human remains, it can, be there for decades. Yeah. So what shows that the remains that they found was that of the tardy girls.
But the police did not conclude that those were... Yes.
I mean, these are some of the reports that, and it's beginning to sink deep in the minds of people that these are, the tardy girls. And
because there's a perfect indicator that there are 3.
I mean, yes, but they didn't find 3, separate matches. I mean, separate remains. Yeah. They actually found 2 skulls, as I was told. Okay, so I'm saying that, look, this issue, we should think about it squarely before we can draw conclusions that. And for me, I think, why the rush? Why are we bringing this issue up for discussion? I think the police should have taken their time and done the necessary investigations and forensic checks to be able to confirm that, look, the remains that we have found, have some semblance with the girls that were missing. And so if they had done that, then they would have been on the right path to informing us about the real issues, pertaining to this matter. Okay. But that wasn't done, and the information was thrown out. And I feel that, look, given the whole lot of issues in this country, there is a deliberate attempt to, divert attention from certain critical issues in this country so that we begin to talk about, look, PDS is an emerging issue. We are not talking about. I'm not talking about it.
That's just your first comment. Let me go on the phone. Let me just go on the phone and bring in Adam Bona here. I will coming back to you. Good evening, Adam Bona. Thanks very much for joining us here on Kwesé TV.
Yes, good evening, and good evening to your viewers, and good evening to your in-studio panelists.
We appreciate your time. Last week, Friday, the police indicated that they had found some remains of human beings or human parts in a cesspit that was at the key suspect's house. They said just behind the key suspect's house. Is this an indicator that the police finally have something substantial about the kidnapping of the tardy girls?
Well, it is early days yet to come to that conclusion. To say the police, they are about bringing closure to the missing Takoradi girls. But I think before you brought me in, I heard one of your studio panelists say 2 skulls were found. No, they are 3, so it's not 2. They are 3. So they are 3. So just to correct that.
Okay.
And and also, what do you call it? Where the skulls were found is not actually where the gentleman, the first suspect, stays, Samuel Wills. He stays, in the next adjoining building.
Okay.
And so this human remains were found in an uncompleted building somewhere, somewhere around where he stays. So this is what I can say. That it's too early days here to say the police, they are almost getting to, bringing closure to this case, not at all.
And considering how long he's been in police custody for investigations, would you say that the police didn't do enough thorough check in his surroundings to have come out with these things earlier?
You see, anybody who understands crime scene investigations and understands kidnappings and missing persons cases, unless you have a reason to believe that where you have gotten to, you should be looking for dead people or a dead person, then you sometimes would have to go excavating and looking for, beginning to treat the place as a homicide, treating the case as a homicide case. So, death, not through natural causes. And so as far as I'm concerned, and also remember, we have different types of criminals. Those who, the metaphysical, those who believe in voodoo, and those who believe in occult practices. these are people who would usually swear to some deity, enter into blood covenant, and therefore, when they are arrested, they've sworn never to expose one another. And so it has to take sometimes a lot of work, due diligence, to be able to, what do you call it, take off the veil, be able to tell what's going on. And so this case actually looks like that, where the intel are picked, to the extent that the first person didn't want to talk, to the extent that they didn't want to give any information. But eventually, the police were able to crack it, and they got the second person. And as we speak, a third person has been apprehended. And so it is too early days yet. As far as I'm concerned, until such a time that the police are able to do what, I mean, the DNA, do the proper matching to see if it is them or not, then it will be very difficult for us to jump into conclusion and say, oh, they are about, bringing this case to a close. Because remember, for an adult person, you have usually a minimum of about 206 or between 206, 210 different parts, different types of bones.
Yes.
And so with that amount of bones in one person, those people they found, if those remains they found, if they found this number of bones, then it's going to be very difficult to be able to piece all of them together genetically, to piece all of them together forensically and say, we'll do that in a very short time. Let's also remember that sometimes when these things happen, you could have, unfortunately, a dismembered body. When you have a dismembered body, you could have a part of the person, of the dead person in one area, another part is in another area. And usually the police or the investigators would have to find the missing parts to be able to piece it together. So a lot of work is going to go into this whole, discovery of human remains.
Okay. In my intro, I mentioned that we are barely 12 days away from the first anniversary, that it will be exactly 1 year since the first person went missing. Would you say that the investigators have done enough?
It's difficult at this juncture to say the investigators have done enough to bring this rescue the missing girls wherever they are.
Yes.
But for me, where I sit, I work closely with all the security agencies in the country, immigration, the police, the military. I work with all of them very, very close.
Yes.
We share a lot of information. So I can tell you by way of information that they have done a lot. They've done a lot in terms of learning from this 3 Takoradi missing girls case. They've done a lot. It's not everything I would be able to share for security reasons, but they've done a lot. And you see, it is out of what they have done that, subsequent missing persons or kidnapped persons, they rescued all of them. Others finished being kidnapped. They got them. Some of them are languishing in jail. Some were actually kidnapped. They rescued them. And so I think that this particular case is the first of its kind for a very long time, and it took all of us off guard. I must be honest that because it wasn't until they went on demonstration in Takoradi when the issues started unfolding.
Yes.
When we started getting a lot of clarity with what has taken place.
Yes.
But international norms, when you go to a police station, let's say in Canada, or a police station, let's say in Toronto, Canada, Washington or London, downtown London, or anywhere in advanced countries, so you go to say, my relation is missing. Usually what they will tell you is that what is the age? And this particular case falls, their age falls within that age where most of them sometimes at that age will leave home and go to friends and sometimes would not return. So usually, the police will tell you, and this is, I mean, you can check, this is out there. They will tell you, you go, if after some time you haven't heard anything, let us know. Meanwhile, we are going to put some information that we are looking for such a person. Okay. So sometimes in other places, it takes time for you to begin to see the missing persons pictures all over. So I think that we have come a long way, and therefore we need to have our fingers crossed, hoping that, this case, dead or alive, would be brought to a closure as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you very much. Stay on the phone for me. I'm going for a break. When I come back, I'll still be getting in touch with you. But, Kwesé, do you think they've done enough?
Without any results.
Yeah.
Enough. But we don't really see the results. So I can't really say for now if they have done enough. But I have my questions, though.
You have your questions. Let's go for a break. When we come back, we'll be doing more of this story on whether the police service or the investigation services we've got in this country have done enough to rescue the tardy girls. Yet last week, Friday, police finally have some substantial evidence, though we cannot say the evidence they got has to do with the 3 tardy girls. When we come back from this break, we'll be talking more here on the feed.
You have seen a decent male or female in a car.
Driver, Miss One Junction.
Hey, mommy. Sister Ghana, another mommy. You need to sound. Oh, mommy, when I saw just some mommy, why?
Sauti kemwa, sheye na won't be bagging. Amo be enhusika. Be cautious in your actions within any form of transport, taxi, church.
Be cautious in your actions, no matter where you are going to, no matter where you find yourself. Make sure that your surroundings are well secured. Welcome back from the break. This is the feed on Kwesé TV. Kwesé, just before we went for a break, you heard Mr. Adam Bona mention that the security services in the country have actually done a lot. We are about 1 year into this. But when the Canadian girls got missing, within a week, they were found. What did the police service or the investigators in this case not do right?
Well, this is my own personal... I don't know. It is sometimes I feel like, as a Ghanaian, I'm a second-rank citizen in my own country. They don't give the attention what they do give to foreigners. Like example, when something happened to a foreigner, they are on top of the game. It is like Ghana have the best police officers, the best CIDs, the best of everything. But when it comes to our own, it is like we have better things to do. I don't know what it exactly is, but about these Takoradi ladies, I think it shouldn't have gone this far. If they were really, I don't know exactly what they have done or what they haven't done, but I feel that they haven't done enough. And I really hope that what they have found have nothing to do with the Takoradi girls.
Rafiq, if you were in charge of the security services, what would you have done?
Well, seriously, I'm not in charge of the security services.
If you were in charge.
But then, you see, we should have taken this issue a lot more serious.
Yes.
I think Mr. Adams Bona is alluding to the fact that the police did a marvelous job and all of that. But you see, that is not what the parents of these girls think. And that is not what the generality of Ghanaians think. We believe strongly that the police haven't done enough. That is a fact. 12 days to 1 year, 12 days to the first anniversary when, you know, the first girl was missing. When Priscilla was missing. We are now getting leads. So, and it is very surprising that, you know, the CID boss will come and tell us that they know where the girls are. I mean, this was a categorical statement.
To keep on keeping on.
Yes, that we should keep on keeping on. So we've kept on keeping on, and now we still have to keep on. Okay, and the news that they are even bringing is not anything interesting. Okay, supposing, I mean, alluding to the fact that what we have found now is the remains of the girls. I was listening to some of the interviews, on air, about these missing girls. One of them, their sister, I can't really remember, you know, her name or which particular one of them. She said that their sister got missing 2 weeks, just 2 weeks after, you know, the first, the guy was arrested. Yes. And even that, they have not been able to trace. So how did they, you know, get the information from the, what's it called, the suspect? I mean, how were they able to get the information of where the girls are? And they cannot be able to tell us that, look, that same guy is telling them that something. Is telling them something that is relevant. So yes. For me, I don't believe that the police have done so much when it comes to it. And like, you know, Kwesé intimated, look, you have Canadians who went missing, and in just about 2 weeks,
was it even
found.
Up to 2 weeks? It
was even up. Yes. So it looks like, you know, we want to gain the glory internationally, because they realize that some of these issues were getting, you know, some international attention. So they needed to act quickly and then, you know, resolve that matter. But when it comes to the Takoradi girls, you know, the police, they haven't done enough. And like I'm saying, the parents of these girls, that is not what they think. They don't think the police have done enough.
Mr. Adam, I will come into you shortly on this one. If you were in charge of the investigation services, what would have done differently? But just before that, let me find out from Akosua. You heard him rightly mentioned about how the police not doing enough, and also citing an example of the Canadian ladies. Do you have this fear of your security when you're stepping out?
Honestly, yes. Because I don't feel to be safe in Ghana. Because it is all about who are you, which connections do you have. If now something happened to me, who will come to my rescue as a Ghanaian woman? Have you asked yourself that?
A very difficult question for me to answer, but let me go on the phone. Mr. Adam, you heard my guests in the studio rightly mention about how they have this fear of feeling that they are second citizens in their own country. When the Canadian girls were kidnapped, they were found within a week, and our own girls went missing for nearly a year. If you were in charge of the security services, what would Adam Bona have done?
Okay, so, well, I am not in charge, but I will be able. Let me share what I know. Yes, it's unfortunate when people begin to feel very
insecure.
Insecure. Yeah. I mean, yes, it's a known fact that we have had, increase in, crime-related matters in this country.
Yes,
it's a known fact that kidnappings, went up. We haven't had any hoping that we won't get any again. We've had some murders here and there. But on the issue of kidnappings, I probably would beg to differ respectfully from your studio panelists.
Yes.
Subsequent to, what do you call it? After these girls were kidnapped or went missing, we have had close to about 7 kidnapping cases. Yes. And all of it have been resolved, including the Canadians. But if we are not very careful, we are going to just zoom into the Canadians issue and make it look as if it is just them who were rescued quickly. Remember, a Ghanaian woman and her houseboy were kidnapped.
Yes.
Around Weja, and they were taken to Amasaman. And when they radioed in, the police within hours rescued them, even though the woman's houseboy died eventually through the rescue.
Yes.
The people who were involved are in jail. We've had the Estonian diplomat who was kidnapped in Accra.
Yes.
He was rescued within hours. We've had there
was another one too in Kaswa, yes.
The Indian who was kidnapped in Kumasi, he was rescued almost immediately. We've had and several, the list goes on to the Canadian girls. But mine is that, including some cases where some students started, copycats, beginning to say, I've been kidnapped, just to extort money. Recently, a young boy in Tamale did that, and he was arrested. And so mine is that let's not take the issue out of context. Yes, we have serious security challenges. Because of over the years, we haven't had serious investment into that area. But I think that if we are not careful, we would, move this issue out of what the discussion and begin to look at it from another angle. It's a pity that the family in Takoradi, these 3 girls, would be grieving, and all of us, we are hoping that they will be rescued. But the truth is that if I was in charge, as you Ridley
asked,
if I was in charge, what I would have probably been doing would be to be in, contact with the relations, letting them know what we are doing, and beginning to put a lot of educative materials, out there. I got an educative, I think I heard your station play some kidnapping promo video.
Yes.
I think I heard you play.
Yeah.
These are some of the things that, as a nation, the people need to see. You know where we have come from. The typical Ghanaian is a bit laid back. There's one thing about us. The typical Ghanaian is a bit laid back, where we observe and sometimes we ignore. The typical Ghanaian is not that aggressive, and that is us. You can't do anything about it. But that is what... Say it again.
Mr. Adam, we appreciate your time. Due to time constraints, we'll get you back again. Just maybe in the studio. Even Rafiq had a question to ask you, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. Nyakwa, she says that they are not doing enough Kwesé feed. And then there's TJ who also said that they did their best. The only problem was them issuing a press statement telling us that the skull found at the backyard of the first suspect is the skull of the missing girls without any DNA test. Thanks very much for your time. Apologies. I just wanted to come back and take your final words, but due to time constraints, we'll do this again. Thank you very much for your time. I am Muftawu Nabila Abdulai, and this has been The Feed.